Hello, everybody. This is Joe Firestone for Empowering Democracy. And our topic for tonight is how can we make it happen? And with me tonight, once again, is Madelyn Hoffman, who
Hi,
was
good
with
evening.
me on Friday. And we did a most interesting conversation on Friday. And Leila Charles Leigh is joining us tonight for the second time, and I am happy to welcome her back. To give you some background, okay, in Madelyn's case, uh, she has been a professor in the New Jersey state system for many, many years. She's a political scientist. Uh, she's been the director of a peace organization and the director of an environmental organization. And she's also been a six-time candidate for office, okay, in New Jersey. Going all the way back was the first time 1995.
1996 with Ralph Nader, his first run for president as a Green. And yes, that was my first run for political office. 3 years in the 90s, 20 years off, and then 3 years, 2018, 2020, and 2021. So
So you've had a lot of political experience on the
yes,
side of how to run campaigns.
as a Green, as an independent, yes.
Yes, as a Green Party candidate. Okay, and Lila, okay, is an actress, but she's an activist. She lives in the LA area, and she's the co-host of the Punch Up Pod with Pat Cochi, also known as Pat the Burner.
Yes. Thank you for having me again. I'm so happy to be here. Ooh, I'm hearing a
Uh,
weird echo. Do you hear that?
Thank you for
Sorry.
coming again. Oh, is there an echo tonight?
Are you hearing? I thought I was hearing it, but maybe no.
I don't hear it.
Okay.
Okay. So all is well. Apparently, let's just see before we get started. Let's just see who has checked in. We have Greg Mallard.
Mhm.
Fancy meeting you here again, Madelyn. Yeah, Madelyn was on the show with Greg just a few minutes ago.
Oh.
On
And Randy
Palestine.
Weaver was on a show
Mm.
on Palestine with them both also. Kay Ryan is here, and David Frank is here from Indiana, saying, great talking with you, Joe. We had a conversation last night. That was a very interesting conversation. Okay, so to review the bidding here, okay, on Friday, we talked about the possibility of the real progressives in Congress, of whom we figured there were maybe 30 to 50.
Oh.
Uh,
I count one, but okay. Tell me.
okay,
This was by Joe's measuring stick.
maybe I should say a little bit about the measuring stick. They have to be both for Medicare for all and also the Green New Deal and for eliminating student debt and for paid by family leave. And of course, they also have to be anti-war, okay, as well. We're not finding a lot of anti-war activity in the Congress, not too explicit, but
No.
there were 30 people who recently signed a letter calling on the president to actually negotiate uh, to end the war, okay, in Ukraine. Okay, so presumably, at least there are those 30 who might be considered to be vaguely anti-war.
vaguely is true.
Okay, we have to remind ourselves there are another 6 Congress people just coming into office who are uh, potential squad members. Okay, so maybe those 6 we can also add, to the total. Okay, so I don't know if there's 30. I don't know if they know there's 30. But I figured that there were people who, because they're getting kicked around so much inside of the Democratic Party in Congress, might just think, well, what if we all got together and we formed our own party or joined the Green Party? What would it be like? And Madeline and I talked about the advantages that they would gain if they did something like that. And then Madeline asked the uncomfortable question. It wasn't really so uncomfortable, it was more like fun to think about. And that is, how can we make it happen? Or at least, how can we facilitate its happening? We being the people involved in independent media, okay, along with the activists who are involved with us at some level. So that's the topic for tonight. How can we make it happen? One thing Madeline suggested the last time was that, well, we would have to get the active cooperation of the Green Party. They would have to be ready to receive these dissidents from the Democratic Party who didn't really belong in the Democratic Party because they were getting kicked around so much. So I think that's where we are, at least a summary of where we are as I see it. So I'm going to open the floor to Madeline, okay, and to Leila,
All I'm going. Go ahead, Joe.
and ask what their thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, all I'm going to say now, because I want to hear more from Leila on this, but all I'm going to say now, how delightful it was for 10 or 15 minutes on Friday to dream about something like that happening, and how I was flying for those 10 or 15 minutes, thinking, that's what all my runs for political office and all the other people running for the political office as Greens, that's part of our intention, is to form a voting bloc that needs to be heard, because otherwise, I mean, I've had these conversations on Facebook way too many times. I had somebody mocking me for saying, if we're going to break the two-party duopoly, we have to stop voting for the duopoly. Yes. And he said, oh, obviously you're not a student of history, and obviously you don't know blah, 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 blah.
Oh
so,
God.
Yeah, so to have to be talking about it from another perspective, it's opened the door and the window to thinking about, yeah, we could have a bloc, because the Democrats have taken the left for granted for way too long, treated Bernie Sanders like, he was no higher than a grasshopper. I just enjoyed dreaming about this, which is what prompted the question, how do we actually make it happen?
Oh, which was, of course, was a question that we
Yeah.
inevitably had to get to.
Yes.
There was no way we could avoid that question.
Right.
It struck me, I had another question sort of attached to that first question, which was a sequencing question. Should we first seek the receptiveness of the Green Party, or should we first try to persuade the real progressives to actually do this.
Okay, so I'm going to be the negative, whatever the opposite of the Pollyanna is, the devil's advocate. I I love this idea. I mean, it's what they have in many parliamentary systems, right? Where even if someone from the Green Party doesn't become the absolute leader of Congress, they leverage their power, and the people who are closest to them on the political spectrum need their votes. And so that's how they can sort of force some issues by banding together and demanding some concessions, which is what I thought the squad. I thought that was their intention, right? I mean, I think it was actually Nancy Pelosi who labeled them the squad somewhat derisively, right? As she was saying, oh, the Green New Deal and whatever, or the whatever, right? And the squad. I mean, I think she sort of did it to diminish them, but they ran with that mantle, and it seemed to really galvanize people even more at the beginning. 2018 was a great year for progressive, starting to make some headway. And so here's where my negativity is coming in, is I feel like I understand what you're saying. I think that they have not banded together.
No.
Even just the 30 of them, that's very generous, but even the 6 of them can't band together to leverage any power, whether it is forcing a vote on Medicare for all, not conceding to allow Nancy Pelosi to be Speaker of the House, now just falling in line for Hakeem Jeffries, whom I think might be even more damaging to the progressives. Whether it is that, hey, let's keep sending Ukraine lots of weapons and endless money, but can we also just do a little diplomacy? They right away pulled that back. I mean, I think Pramila Jayapal is not interested in going against the power of the Democratic Party. So I think as much as I love this idea, and I do have a lot of hope attached to Summer Lee. She feels more like Nina Turner in her disregard for whatever silly conventions are being sort of pushed on the squad. I'm hopeful that she's not going to have any of it. But I thought that about Cori Bush also. And I mean, I'm just shocked. I'm shocked that any of them, all of them, apart from Rashida Tlaib, voted to break a strike and send people back to work against their will. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I love it. I remember when Bernie Sanders in 2016 was clearly, that was all rigged against him and pushed out of the primaries. And I think it was it then? I think it was then that, it might've been in 2020, but he was offered the head spot of the Green Party and he didn't want it.
Yeah.
And he's one of, I think, our best. And he didn't want to step outside of his comfort zone of being that, sort of like agitator within the Democratic Party, even though I know he calls himself an independent, but he always steps in line. And I think he's sincere and is truly, this is the way he thinks he might possibly get a concession or move policy forward. And certainly in my lifetime, he's moved more big policy ideas forward than anybody else. People talk about Medicare for all. Now it is majority popular across the whole country. Republican, Democrat, Independent, Green New Deal, legalizing marijuana, right? Like living wage, all of these. So, I mean, he's inordinately powerful in his message, but he's not really willing ever to leverage that against his good friend Joe and all of the other people back there. Anyway, that's my negativity, but now I'd love to hear your plan forward.
Well, no, I share that negativity, Leila, in the sense that what I said last time was the Green Party has this people in the Democratic Party don't like the Greens, and people in the Democratic Party have been blaming the Greens for many things over a long period of time. Even 1996 or no 2000 rather,
Right.
when Ralph Nader ran and we got George W. Bush. People in 2018 still blame the Greens for that and Ralph Nader. So what we need to do if we were going to pull this off is somehow get the stigma removed from the name Green Party. Somehow make it something that be attractive to people who have been bashing it for too long, and so that's a tough one. That's a tough one because
It's so amazing that the same people who blame the Green Party for George W. Bush were recently saying how much they missed George W. Bush while still blaming Ralph Nader and the Green Party, even though, what was it, 200,000 Florida Democrats changed to Republican to vote for Bush in 2000? I mean,
Wow.
the Democrats, registered Democrats, who changed and voted for George W. Bush far outweighed anybody who voted for Ralph Nader, but they're still going to blame Nader for being the spoiler while longing for the days of the worst president in my whole lifetime, George W. Bush, just because doesn't send mean tweets like the other Yahoo.
Yeah. Well, and we remember, Al Gore distanced himself from Bill Clinton. Al Gore
Yep.
didn't carry his own home state,
Yep.
and there were so many other reasons for
Of
that.
course.
Right.
But
also have to remember that Al Gore actually won.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
he did. Yeah,
Both
he did.
the popular and the electoral college. Yep.
Both the electoral college and the popular vote. And it was due to the fact the Supreme Court handed, the election.
100%. That was
Yeah.
a successful insurrection.
Yes.
That has the January 6th has nothing on what Dick Cheney and his Supreme Court and Jeb Bush managed to do. Right?
Yeah.
Yes, I think that was a coup d'etat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. And we've been living with that ever since.
Yeah.
But then, in addition, what came of that was the continuous
stigma,
attack on the Green Party.
Yeah.
And in times, I mean, we to deal with that this past year in North Carolina with the candidacy of Matthew Hoh.
He's great. I know. Disgusting what they did.
The Democratic Party, and they try, and they said, "Oh, we think there's some violations here, but we can't tell you what they are. We can't tell you what Matthew Hoh did wrong, but because we have suspicion." Yeah, but then people actually, between Matthew Hoh and Rose Roby, his campaign manager, and some nonprofit organizations concerned about democracy, they held their own. I mean, they even had this company that was working on this. They even came to people's doors in North Carolina and said, "Do you want to take your name off the petition so that Matthew Hoh can't be on the ballot?" They went to such extremes, So the atmosphere still is contaminated with that kind of stuff, and that goes all the way back to 2000, if not before.
So I have a question, because if the hope is to somehow like buttress up this group, the squad or the progressives or however we want to talk about them, and I don't mean to, I'm saying this with all respect for your idea, but why do you think that inviting them into the Green Party is preferable to them than being labeled the squad, but in the Democratic Party?
Okay, I think that's a very good point. But one of the reasons why I think they might actually prefer the Green Party is because when they get into another party, in other words, the Congress people,
right,
would be the Green Party in Congress, and they would be
Right.
electing a minority leader. They
Mm,
would
Right.
be electing a whip
mhm.
Right.
and a caucus head
There'd be a
for
structure underneath them that would be,
Yes.
or that they could help develop, is what you're
there would
saying.
be a structure underneath them
Right.
that they would lead
Right.
and that would be independent of the Democratic Party.
Right. Well, that is, I mean,
I mean, that is
Yes.
something. In other words, they
yeah,
would not have to look to Hakeem Jeffries.
for committee
Mm,
assignments or whatever. Right.
They would be the people who would be nipping at the heels of Hakeem
Right.
Jeffries, and the other leadership,
Yeah.
and they would be negotiating with the Republican Party as well as negotiating with the
Right.
Democratic Party. So they would be an independent force. And
Right.
as an independent force, it seems to me they would have far more influence
Yeah.
on what is going on than they would if they remained a part of the Democratic Party. And that seems obvious to me.
Yeah.
Their
No, I like
leverage,
don't
that. Yeah.
their
don't
leverage
forget. Go ahead.
would be greater outside of the party, okay,
Yeah.
than inside of the party. And furthermore, we have to remember and perhaps not be too cynical about the people involved. But when Rashida was running for Congress,
Yeah.
I mean, there was a fire in her
Yeah.
belly
Yep.
Yeah.
and in AOC's belly and Presley. All four of
Yep.
them had real fire. That
Yeah.
was kind of unmistakable. That's why we liked them.
Yeah.
Then they were exposed to the reality of the Congress and getting kicked every day. And now the
Right.
fire, of course, okay, is out of them. But you have to think, what are they waiting for?
Right.
How many years will they occupy these positions that are
Yeah.
not allowing them to have an effect? In
Yeah.
other words, they ran for Congress for a reason. They
Yeah.
went through difficult campaigns for a reason.
Yeah.
But,
Now,
but let me just
Nancy,
let me just add this too, because it's bothering me. Because you said the leadership of the Green Party, but you forget that the Green Party has a leadership. So it's got to be a mutual. If they're going to be embraced by the Greens, they have to be they have to be vetted by the Greens. There has to be, an attempt. There needs to be a process for, because if it's just progressive Democrats leading the Greens by the nose, that's not going to happen either. So I just needed to
they,
interject that
they
for a
won't be
second.
leading the Greens by the nose because clearly they're not a part of the Green structure yet. And there's going to be a give and take as they become a part of the Green structure. They're going to have to participate in conventions. They're going to have to help with the party platform. Uh, Both the Greens and they are going to find out what ideas they have in common with one another. It seems to me that on the surface there are a lot of ideas, okay, in common. But also the Green Party has some pretty heavy people in it.
Mm-hmm.
Jill Stein,
Mm-hmm.
Howie Hawkins.
Chris Hedges from time to time almost ran as a Green in New Jersey. So yeah, but that it has to be. You had said something earlier about why the real progressives, in response to Lila's question, and why they would want to be in the Greens and as opposed to remaining within Democratic Party. And I guess I reacted to your saying they would be the leadership of the Green Party, because it would need to be a process. That's all.
Uh, what I was saying is they would be the leaders of the Green Party in Congress.
Mm.
Notice there's a difference between
Mhm.
the leadership of the party structure.
Mm.
Uh, there's a difference between the leadership of the party as a corporate entity and
Mm.
the leader of the party, okay, in Congress. It's the same difference actually for the Democratic Party. In other words, there are party leaders who run the structure and who help in elections and support candidates in various ways. And then there are the leaders of the Democratic Party in the House and the leaders of the Democratic Party in the Senate. And these leaders are not the same. The way the American political system works, of course, if somebody gets to be president, then they get to be temporary leaders of the party
Mm.
in some sense. But with any other offices, the office holders are not the party leaders, nor would they be if the 30 of them or so were uh, to join the Greens, okay, or merge with the Greens. They would still have a party structure to contend with.
Indeed.
Yes, and that party structure has some very strong personalities and very good candidates as well. In other words, there were all sorts of reasons why the Green Party's candidates weren't successful, but
Mhm.
those reasons were not due to a lack of intellect
Yeah.
or to a lack of policy that was attractive and that held much in common with what these progressives actually believe. But I haven't said much yet about really why would they want to. What's the incentive? Okay, for Washington. Well, okay, if you would rather be an independent third party or part of an independent third party, then you would want to be that because the particular party you might select has a party structure and has the capability of getting on the ballot in many
Mhm.
states. And the Green
Mhm.
Party in 2016 got on the ballot in 46 states.
Mhm.
That's very, very important.
Indeed.
Okay. Who, uh, if these people were to go out and to form their own independent party, let's say they called it the Social Democratic Party of America or something
Mm.
like that. Okay. They would have to get on the ballot in those
Right.
46 states. Who would get them on the ballot?
Yeah,
Who would
it's
Right.
do
not
that
easy.
work?
It's not easy to do.
It's not
So,
easy to do.
mm,
So that's a big incentive for them to affiliate with a party that's
Mm.
closest to them, okay, in ideology,
yeah,
but can also do the basic work of getting on the ballot. So they would not have to do it. So that's
right.
one reason why they might want to join with them. But the biggest reason why they might want to join with them is because, as part of the Democratic Party in Congress, they are getting kicked to the bottom. Now, take Jayapal. She's a very ambitious lady. Actually, I don't particularly like her. However, and I think she's a sellout, okay, in many ways. But being a sellout isn't getting her anywhere.
Right.
Where is it getting her to? I mean, what is she leading? She's leading only the progressives anyway.
Yeah.
So, what have they given her as someone who wants to be a leader and who wants to be a leader inside of the Democratic Party? The answer is they're not giving her anything. They're kicking her to the curb. And they're doing it even more to other progressives. So why year after year would
Mm.
they want to stay in that position and see the party they're a part of run candidates against them,
Yeah.
spend millions of dollars in primaries against them,
Yeah.
force them to raise millions of dollars to continually fight for their seats? Why would they want to stay in such a party? Why would they want to write a letter to the President of the United States asking for the most moderate thing is, hey, sit down and talk with the other guys. Okay. And then they get all this pressure down on them. You guys, shut up. This is all premature. You guys, shut up. Just give us total control of foreign policy. Yeah, sure. That's why they wanted to be in Congress, so they could give total control of the important things to someone I'll describe as some asshole sitting in the White House, because he certainly is one.
Yes.
That's incredible.
So, it feels like
nuclear war.
I know.
For what?
Supposedly, it's all about the Benjamins.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, you could get in big trouble for saying that, Leila.
I'm a nice Jewish girl from New York. I'm going to say it.
I'm a Jewish girl too, from New Jersey.
Right. So I'll pick up where Ilan Omar left off with that very true statement. I wonder, because I think part of the problem is, there was that great moment in, what was it, Knock Down the House, that documentary, when right before 2018. And AOC said the most powerful person in Congress is somebody who is only going to be only has aspirations to be a one-term congressperson. And of course, the irony is that if you fight as hard as you should for all the policies that are popular with everybody in the whole country, pretty much, except for the 538 people who are walking the halls of Congress, you would be elected over and over. But, after she did that stunt with the Green New Deal and the, oh my goodness, my mind just totally.
The Sunrise Movement.
Yeah, the Sunrise Movement. Thank you. Which was wonderful. Then she really got a talking to. Then she changed her vote on the Iron Dome, and Nancy Pelosi made her cry on the floor of Congress. And so I think that what happens is and I don't think that they came in there to be, sheepdogging people or to be sellouts. I don't believe that. I think,
and nor do I.
I
but
think
that's
that
what they're relegated to, right?
You get there, and the pressure is so intense. And while everybody on the outside is being told now's not the time, Joe Biden just got in, just wait, we'll vote for him, push him left, they are getting, constant, the donors, the lobbyists, the people who are really running this country are constantly putting pressure on them. So we're always behind. We're never going to catch up to that kind of pressure. Even if you're not taking money from those people, well, they're voting with the people who are taking money from those people. So, but you're in that bubble, or they're in that bubble of that's their work environment. And they are at the bottom of the barrel of this hierarchy that they have to deal with every single day. And I don't think it's going to happen without enormous pressure from the outside, and possibly somebody, as you said, like a Chris Hedges, Ralph Nader, the people who have, Jill Stein, although, her reputation has been so muddied by the disgusting corporate media and the people in Congress. It's just vile what they've done. But if enough people on the outside with big platforms and big microphones who are brilliant, who are doing the work, Shama Sawant, all these people who are really fighting the good fight, I guess that to me might be a pull to remind them who they say they are, who they used to be, because I don't think it's going to happen organically in Congress. They're not going to sit around the way we are right now and figure out ways to, it doesn't seem that that's where their mind is right now. They just keep falling in line.
Well, and I think you're right about the people with the big microphones, but I also think as the situation in this country deteriorates, as the labor movement is revitalized, as workers from Starbucks and Amazon and the railroad, as the workers come out in large numbers, or larger and larger numbers, and the change advocates and the other activists come out in larger numbers, I think, and this is one of the reasons that I'm so frustrated with U.S. politics. It's not only that the system keeps third parties out. It's rigged to keep third parties out. It's also that increasingly activism in the streets is directed at moving the Democratic Party to the left. I do not want to spend my time, sorry, advocating for something that will move the Democratic Party to the left. But if the independent political organizing is strong enough, then because of the issues, not because we're trying to get more people to vote Democrat, but because of the we're trying to build a larger movement around the issues, then I'm all for it. But I'm not sure where that energy is going to come from.
Well, part of that energy might come from 30 Democrats who come together and decide they've had it with Hakeem Jeffries. Uh, okay, and they want to be independent. The motivation is to be independent from this corrupt party structure that has been dragging them down ever since they got to the Congress.
Yep.
And they're going to have 6 more people coming in right now, and they're going to tell these 6 more people how to play the game and what they should be doing. And some of these people are going to say, that's not why I wanted to get into Congress. That's not what I wanted to do in Congress.
Right.
Why are you doing this? Why are you acting this way?
Yep.
I mean, you were all firebrands. That's how you got elected.
Yeah.
Why are you sitting still for it now? We've got the 30 of you, and then we've got 6 more of us that came in. How many of us have to come in to get you to kick up your heels?
We just need 2 more. No,
and do
like only 2? Where did you come up with that number?
That's what it's always that. It's just 2 more. We just need 2 more, 10 more, 50 more. We just need 538 more progressives, and then we can get something going on.
And at the rate of 2 to 4 every 4 to 8 years, we'll be here. We won't be around to see that change. That's why, I mean, I think it was so wonderful to dream about those 30 or so people leaving the Democratic Party. What's that?
Madelyn.
Yeah.
That is a very good argument as to why these Democrats ought to come together and leave.
Yes.
Yeah.
That may be the most powerful argument, because if this goes on much longer, we're all not going to be here. So how long are they going to wait for them to get into positions of leadership in the party? In other words, I know what AOC said to start is, well, we have a leader who's not going to be here for very long. Okay, so we can maybe wait a little while. That's what she was thinking. Well, guess what? New boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah.
Okay.
And not a peep. Not a peep from any of them.
New boss is only 52.
So in other words, he might be around for a very long time.
Oh, yeah. With his super PAC that's built just to crush progressives. So why didn't any one of them, why didn't they? I mean, okay, so fine. Even if I don't think they're 30, but even if there are 6 progressives, not one of them, they didn't all band together and say, hey, we want some concessions. We're not just going to, pave the way for Hakeem Jeffries to stride up to the leadership position. I mean, so just thinking practically, I think they're cowed. I just don't see it coming from them there. I do think that a really persuasive argument might come from some of the climate scientists who are beating their heads against walls. We're all living in David Sirota's movie right now, where the projections from a decade ago are, that weren't supposed to happen for 30 years are happening right now, right? And I think that I think maybe if some people in the medical profession who are really fierce advocates for Medicare for all, I think possibly if there were outside pressure from experts who have a lot of visibility, that might give, because I think what they need is an excuse. They need an excuse to go against leadership. And unless we are constantly agitating from the outside and reminding them whom they owe their votes to and what they promised, and that we will not just keep falling in line and giving money and giving time and voting for them, I think they need that kind of outside agitation to give them, to almost strengthen them and give, we are their excuse for going to the Pelosi's and the Hakeem Jeffries and the Schumers and saying, listen, we can't keep doing this. We're going to lose. Now, I mean, I think that they would just say, fine, bye, you're done. We'll just get, 30 more Chantel Browns in here or whatever.
Well,
Well,
and that's where
can try to get the 30 more Chantel Browns in there. However, many of the Chantel Browns this time around, I shouldn't say many, but some of the Chantel Browns this time around were beaten by progressives.
That's true. Yes.
Who were well organized. The money, even though it was unprecedentedly large, did not win in every race.
Right.
Basic politics won sometimes.
So how do we get the grassroots movements? How do we work, to provide that other voice that's going to start to tear those progressives away from the Democratic Party without, there's someone in my state I've respected for years. I've known him for 40 years. And all he wants to do now is become a Democratic Party. And he used to organize a lot of grassroots events. And I would go to them all, of anti-police protests, civil rallies, all of the important issues. But I can't go to them anymore because of his prominence or his very clear desire to become a progressive Dem. How do we set up the grassroots activities to be around issues and not about the party? Because that's going to provide the base, I think, that will slowly, people will peel off out of the Democratic Party and say, if I'm going to be strong, this is where I need to be.
We made a point, though, before, which I thought, was very important from the standpoint of getting these 30 or however many there are together to leave the Democratic Party at one shot. And that point is the time limit that we are all facing. Perhaps if we can develop a campaign to remind them that they have to do something now, that this cannot wait for next year or the year after that or 2000, in 28. They have to do something now that will shift the balance of what is going on, and that will make Hakeem Jeffries and his structure unsuccessful. In other words, we know that if Hakeem Jeffries continues to lead the Democratic Party, we're all going over the cliff because he is Mr. Corporation.
Yeah.
Yes.
They know it too. They know it just as well as we. We have to be the voice to tell them that we have only a few years left.
Yeah.
And that they cannot just say, let us wait until Hakeem Jeffries decides to leave.
To retire,
It's not going to work. The reason why it's not going to work should be visible to them by now,
Yeah.
because they were waiting for Nancy Pelosi to leave. And what did she do?
Yep.
She just greased the skids for her successor. New boss, same as old boss. That's what she wanted. That's what her legacy was. Her
Yep.
legacy is a corporate Democratic Party that is going to be in the hands of the oligarchs. They can see now that she did this. They can't go on not fighting about it, not saying a peep about it.
Yep.
But you
I
senators
mean,
too have to develop some courage. The voters have to stop. I mean, as long as Donald Trump is out there being held up as the extreme that we're trying to avoid, as long as he's being held up there, it's all the Democrats. I'll call it blue to green. I like that one.
Yeah.
So the voters have to develop a backbone, and there's got to be more support for people who run as Greens or who run as independents, because it is a lonely road. It isn't easy. You're getting. They used to say about Ralph Nader, some of the people his detractors would say, "Oh, he's only in it for his ego." He's just and I would say, hey, have you run as a Green yet? It's if you're in it for your ego, there's something else that you would much rather do
Yeah.
than the Green get hit from all sides.
Yeah.
So we need to create RCV. We need ranked choice voting, which people are. But when we, how do we do that? How do we make it? How do we provide more support for the people who are out there calling for the things that we're talking about?
okay, well, when it comes to ranked choice voting, we know that we can sometimes be successful at the state level in getting that to happen, especially in the states where there are ballot initiatives.
Right.
And maybe get ranked choice voting put in those particular states. And we know it has some influence. It's had some influence in Alaska, certainly, and we're seeing good result there. It's had some influence, okay, in Maine. I'm not sure I like the results in Maine, but the point is, ranked choice voting does break their control to
Right.
some degree, and as we go forward, it's more and more going to break their control.
Right.
But there's the time problem involved with this too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We don't have too many years to break their control that way.
No.
I think your idea of getting the people who are already there to really form a coalition, that is our best, I think, short-term project, right? Is somehow to get them to respond to the needs of the country instead of the needs of the donors who are, even if they don't take that money, but they're voting with the people who do. I mean,
okay, so how do we encourage them to come together? I know that on January 3rd of 2021, I was trying to get them to understand that they had the numbers, just the 6 of them,
yep.
to replace Nancy Pelosi and get her out of there.
Yep.
So the numbers were there, but I was shocked, though, to learn that evidently they never talked about who to vote for Speaker.
And why haven't they haven't done anything over the past year to gear somebody else up as a possible challenger, just to put that name in people's minds, right? To have some kind of bench for progressives.
It's not going to happen in the Democratic Party. I'm sorry about that.
You don't really.
Now I'm the Debbie Downer.
I knew I could. I'm contagious. I knew I could do it.
Okay, I think that it isn't really necessary to have a candidate to put forward at
Right.
first. What is more necessary is to have a group come together to deny the speakership
Yes.
to people who are part of the corporate bloc. If
Yes.
that can be done, then in multiple rounds of voting for speaker, which may just occur after 2024, you
Hmm.
can create a situation where there's a stalemate. They've got to have a speaker, but they can't elect the corporate person because the corporate person won't have the votes.
Right.
Mm.
Different speaker candidates would come forward, not the person the corporates have been pushing
Yeah.
going forward 2024. Hakeem Jeffries maybe will not be able to make it if the vote in Congress or for Congress is once again very close,
Right.
and you're looking at something like uh, 225 to what is it, 435 altogether, 225,
Mm.
215, 213. I don't know. I'm not doing the
Yeah.
arithmetic here very quickly. I won't say math because it's not math, it's just arithmetic. But
3
uh,
R's.
the point is, if it's as close as it was in 2021 and as it is in 2023, then a very small number of the progressives would have the balance of power, maybe between 6 and 10, and they can deny the speakership to any corporate candidate.
Yes.
That would mean that if
Yeah.
they stuck together, that candidates would emerge who don't necessarily have corporate support. There might be 5 or 6 different ones who could emerge in that situation. And then the progressives would be have a chance to negotiate with that person for all kinds of concessions. What sorts of concessions? For example, rule changes, okay, in Congress. What if you had 20 co-sponsors for a bill? You had to have a floor vote for that bill. That would give backbenchers
Right.
a tremendous amount of power, much more power than they have now, because they could get floor votes for their bills and people would have to go on record.
Yep.
So that's a fundamental change, okay, that could happen. You could water down the importance of seniority. You could make sure that there's no pay-go rule at all. And you could also negotiate for key committee spots. So if they come together in any sort of coalition, it gives them far more power to do something important. And I still think that if they take the step of getting out of the Democratic Party, that gives them real power. And as I said before, I think the best people for them to ally with at that point would be the Green Party.
And see, as a Green Party person, that would make me very happy. It would not make me very happy to work within the Democratic Party because we know it's all too evident where the donor money and where the power, the corporate power is in the Democratic Party. And even today, someone who's a Democrat who doesn't like Greens apologized and said, not apologized, he said, well, what did you want Biden to do when I came down, on the against the agreement, imposed agreement? What did you want him to do? Did you want him? He rescued the economy. What did you want?
Okay,
You
so
know,
let
and
me just say,
and then it's just add that he said, and what the heck has the Green Party done except bang on a lot of pots? That's what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're at 56 now. 56 minutes. Okay. Lila.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's quite all right. Okay. Because we did have a sort of an hour limit for that as well. Okay. Because Madelyn has an hour limit.
Oh,
So we're at maybe 56 minutes now. It's past time actually for Lila to go because you had a meeting.
I do at 7. I'm so sorry. I have to hop on another Zoom on a Zoom call for school, my kids' school. Okay, so we didn't solve all the problems yet.
Okay.
In
We did not solve all the problems. We could come on tomorrow night and do this again and talk some more. Okay. If you would both be available.
Can I talk to you after? Because I have to sort of check with my whole family situation and work, but I would love it. I want to continue this conversation. It's vital. I think you are amazing. And Madelyn, it's so nice to meet you.
Likewise.
And she's
yeah.
amazing too, isn't she?
Yeah, really. No, I said both of you. Both of you are amazing. It's so nice to meet
And
you.
so are
And
you.
thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for having me on. Let's all just keep fighting the good fight. And Joe, I'll talk to you, offline about everything. But thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Lila.
Right. Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank
I'll see you.
you.
Good night.
Okay, Madelyn,
Yeah.
and it's just about time for you to go as well. If you
Yeah.
want like to say a few final words.
I turn into a pumpkin if I'm if I'm out past 10. No. Again, I mean, this is all really important information, important discussion, thought provoking, and I would be glad to come back. I'm not sure I can do this again tomorrow. I'll have to check my schedule, but if I can, I will. And if I'm not, the conversation can proceed without me. I just think, the prospect of reforming the Democratic Party died with me a long time ago, or the
Yes.
dream or the hope or the thought that I could do that. And so,
Yes, and it has died with me too because it's taking too long.
yeah,
Okay. Now I do have a plan, of course. To
yes,
dump the corruption idea. If we
yes,
can get
yes,
that going, it could change not just the Democratic Party but the Republican Party as well. In other words, if we could get something done that would stop them from taking the corporate money, then the parties would act in an entirely different way. But
yes.
I do generally agree. Without something like the dump the corruption thing, they won't change, and the
No,
possibility of reform
unfortunately not.
will happen.
And I've seen all too many instances where good, well-intentioned people are organizing folks for a good cause, and then the end point of that good cause is to say, okay, you've got to vote Democrat. And we just saw it with the row your boat. We saw that, and that was supposed to be a wave of people voting Democrat. Now I think it worked. I think the strategy worked, but for what end? To what end? To tread water. As long, I think as long as we keep thinking within the Democratic Republican box, we're treading water. But that's my last word for tonight.
Okay, thank you, Madelyn.
Thank you, Joe.
And hopefully we can arrange something for tomorrow night. I see that Gregory Mallard says he would love to join, as well. Okay, if I'd
Okay.
be up for that. And the answer is yes, Greg, I would be up for that. I would also be up for Lisa to join.
Lisa has a lot of good commentary. I can't respond to the comments. So if you made a comment and you're upset, or you would hope that you were hoping that I could respond, I can't do it. I don't have the capability of writing something in the comments. So please don't think I was ignoring all those great comments.
Yeah, generally speaking, the guests are not able to reply to
Yeah.
comments.
Yeah.
Only the hosts
Yeah.
can reply to comments, okay, in StreamYard.
All
Uh,
right. So I'm going to go, and if you want to drop to, my voice is going fast. So
okay, that's fine. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking with the commenters, and then I
okay.
will be going as well.
All
Because,
right.
as I've said, I'm liking the 1 hour shows these days.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's. I do too. Do offline and see about tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Madeline.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Okay, so I think that discussion was a pretty great one. I am going to take in your comments, okay, at this time. Yeah, we did have some nice folks come tonight. Okay, people are saying really good. Oh, so Greg Mallet said at 9:09 that Madelyn and he had that discussion this evening. I guess they talked somewhat about what we were doing here. And Brandy says because they already have some name recognition from being elected to office. Yes, they have the name recognition, Brandy. Not only that, they come with their own funding because they have raised funding. Many of them have raised funding from small dollar donations, either completely or primarily. And so, of course, having candidates run with their own capacity to raise money would be a very valuable thing for the Green Party, certainly. Uh, uh, and Brandy said, I was only involved in the two-party system for 2 years. I've been an independent for 20 years. And Gregory says, fraud squad. The Green Party really is the only pro-workers party in existence. I think that's true, Greg, at least here in America. We have to qualify that. And I shouldn't be saying America. I should be saying here in the United States. Brandy says, I would rather associate with the Greens. I voted for Nader. Yeah, I'd rather associate with the Greens too. I think the Greens have many great people in the Green Party. Margaret Flowers is a Green. I mean, there are terrific people who have been associated with the Greens over the years. Kevin Zeese was a Green. Kay says, in Ohio, we have no choice. And Chaoticon says, there will be more expected of the progressives. Well, supposedly they want to do more. So that won't necessarily be a problem. Lisa says they'll be bounced from their committees. I don't believe there'll be a reconciliation on that until the next session convention for this to work. Lisa says it's the Greens that will need to negotiate their inclusion at their convention. I agree. Like Madelyn and I discussed earlier, the Green Party truly would be the only pro workers party elected. Lisa says convention. Yes, convention. We have no real Green Party in Ohio, Kay says. Daniel, New York one says, I love the optimism. Greg says, what about getting Kashama Sawan to join forces with us? I would love it if we could join forces with Kashama Sawan. I mean, she's like real. Kashama. Kashama. Brandy says, I love Kashama. Yeah, we all love her because of her fighting spirit. She's a fighter. Daniel, New York one says, self enrichment, self aggrandizement, who knows? Greg says, "Ha ha, I rubbed off on you, Joe. You rubbed off on me? I thought I rubbed off on you." Lisa said, "Well, they have the guts to do it. They can't even withhold their votes." That's true. Brandy says, "We had a Starbucks by Unionize in Arkansas, a right to work state. Gives us all some hope, doesn't it?" Green Party can easily capitalize on the new labor movement. The Greens should lead the charge on labor on unions, says Chaoticon Chaoticon. And Brandy Weaver says, "Exactly, Leila." Chaoticon says, "Agree." Gregory Mallet said, "That's the last thing we need." And Gregory Mallet says, "We should get someone like Diane Moxley elected as Green in New Jersey." Yeah, I know Diane Moxley. She's pretty good. I agree. What should we call it? Hashtag blue to green. Blue to green. Yeah. Greg, yes. Diane Moxley. Diane M, she says. Lana says, "Please hit the like button. Please hit the share and subscribe button also." Kay says, "I like RCV. So do I." And Lana says, "We have RCV, that's ranked choice voting, in Minneapolis." And Greg says, "Like Katie Porter, for example." Yes, I certainly think that Katie Porter should be one of the 30s. Whether she would be or not, I don't know. Katie Porter, as you know, is very close to Elizabeth Warren. When it comes to the Democratic Party, Elizabeth Warren is a real institutionalist. Uh, I don't know how Katie Porter feels. Lisa says, "They can deny the fascism. Corporations' merger with the state is fascism. Let's call it what it is. That's how we make this happen." Well, I don't get the full thought there, Lisa. I hope you'll come on soon and give it to us. Brandy says, "They just don't get it, okay, at all." Red says, "I'd love to join in as well. That's if you'd be up for that, Joe. I would certainly be up for that." Lisa says, "I may be able to come tomorrow, Joe. Pretty sure." That would be absolutely wonderful, Lisa. That would be wonderful. Bonnie is saying, "Wow." That would be wonderful, Lisa.
Yes, wonderful.
And we would have a party. If I had any champagne, I'd break out the champagne. Lana says, Lisa throws a heart. Lana says, "Please all, if you haven't pressed the like button, please do." And Brandy Weaver says, "Dumbs, one won't in Arkansas unless they address working class issues, which they mostly ignore." Greg says, "I would love to see the Green Party capitalize on the current new labor movement." I would love to see the Green Party become the new Labor Party. We need a party here that is identified as the Labor Party. We certainly do. And a party that was both a Labor Party and a Green Party, that would be a new thing for the United States and quite a wonderful thing, too. Greg says, "I'll bring the snacks." Kay says, "See you all next time. I love you all." Thank you, Joe. We love you, Kay. And I'm glad we're going to see you next time. So it is time for me to get off. And I thank you all for coming. This was a particularly lively episode. I love that, of course. And I'm hoping we're going to have a real blast tomorrow as well. So have a really good evening. And I'll see you at 9 p.m. tomorrow.